key or the brain behind the AGC. I know what I'm talking about. He also was very, very instrumental when we talk of the AAC 1 and 2 that took place in Bamenda and Boya. He is Dr. Simon Munzo, who was the pioneer spokesperson for the All Anglophone the AGC that was led by the late Christian Cardinal Tumi. He resigned along the way and has been away for some time. We are going to be finding out from him what he has been doing and where he thinks the Anglophone crisis stands. We are very glad to have him with us this evening. Good evening, Doctor, and welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And now that you and I have established that we respect the barrier measures, I suppose I can take off my mask.
Yeah.
Because we're sitting at least two meters apart in your studio. So once again, thank you for having me.
Okay. You have been away for some time. You came in to pay homage, last tribute to someone many call as Cameroon's hero. I'm talking about the late Christian Cardinal Tumi. You witnessed everything. What feeling after his departure?
Well, first of all, I mean, what can it be but a feeling of a great sense of loss? As I said in an earlier statement, our country has lost its most prominent moral voice, which we needed so much, especially in this time where we are still very much in crisis, not only in the northwest and southwest regions where we are, yes, in a military crisis with tremendous social implications on people's lives and livelihoods, but we are also facing a crisis of democracy, the crisis of, if you like, governance, the things which the Cardinal focused on. So for me personally, it's I feel a great sense of loss. It's a great sense of sadness. The last time, if I did it, little did I know it was going to be the last time, but the last time I saw the Cardinal was on the 17th of July last year. And I had gone to inform him that I was planning to travel to the US 2 days later, on the 19th of July. And we said goodbye, and we discussed a project that we had in mind then, which indeed was to tell the story of the Anglophone General Conference. We agreed that I would write it and he would preface it, you know. So you can imagine, for me personally, what it has meant for him to go at this time. You say I've been away, but yes, I was out of the country, as I say, since July last year, but I was in constant touch with the Cardinal, whom I had come to play the role of a spiritual guide for me, and I described him as a mentor. That is no exaggeration, because I learned a lot from him.
Okay. What is Cameroon missing in the passing of the late Christian Cardinal Tumi?
Cameroon is missing a crucial moral voice.
Okay.
I say a crucial moral voice because, yes, we have politicians, and politicians are people who are fighting for power, either to keep it for those who have it already, or to get it for those who are aspiring to become a president and all of that. And in that situation, there is inherent in that kind of situation is a certain polarization.
Yeah.
And we see that in the way in which discussion is conducted in this country over crucial issues. So it was necessary that we get someone who is passionately concerned about what is happening in the country, who takes a deep interest in following the day-to-day events, and who is open to all protagonists in various camps and groups and sides in this national mix that we have, and who would tell you tell you as it is, without having second thoughts, being guarded because of self-interest and so on and so forth. And Cardinal Tumi was that kind of person. So for him to have exited as he now has, I can tell you that although none of us had an illusion that he was going to live eternally, and we cannot say that he died too early, he was going to be 91 late in October this year. So we can't complain in terms of the number of years spent on this earth. We thank the good Lord for his life for that. But at the same time, we know that he represented so much, even at his age, and that this nation should have continued to benefit, I should say, would have continued to benefit from his good counsel, for his sense of moderation, his sense of compromise, and just general disposition to listen to everyone, even those who combated him and who didn't want to hear him.
Okay. Dr. Simon Munzo, you say he actually was that moral voice that Cameroon is already missing. Did the government, the population, Anglophones actually take full advantage of what Christian Cardinal Tumi represented for the nation? Did they make good use of it?
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Cameroonians took full advantage in the sense that the ordinary Cameroonian listened to Cardinal Tumi, heard what he had to say, appreciated his stance on issues, and that is why many kept going to him to seek counsel. But the political elite did not listen to him to the degree that they should have. And by political elite, I mean both those in power and those in the opposition aspiring someday to come to power. Yes. Because unfortunately, given that much of the Cardinal's interventions were driven by his social consciousness, his high sense of understanding of what the ordinary Cameroonian man, woman, child in all the 10 regions of this country was experiencing, meant that advocating improving things for these people, he will necessarily have to take the government to task, because it is the government which by vocation has the responsibility to take care of Cameroonians in this manner. Now, and because he did that, and was perceived by the government, by the ruling elite, as he himself used to say, that they take him as an opposant, some of the opposition. Now, that endeared him to those who are in the opposition. Okay? So the other side of the political elite appreciated the Cardinal, liked him. Why? Because the statements that he made, the positions that he took, comforted them. But I can bet you that if those same people were to have become the government, the new government, automatically they wouldn't have liked what the same Cardinal would have been saying, because the Cardinal would have remained consistent in his advocacy for the welfare of the people, regardless of who is in power.
Yeah, Doctor, you say he was loved by the common Cameroonian and not too much by the political elites, because he constantly reminded them of their weakness or failures to meet the needs, expectations of the population. But we saw him today decorated posthumously. Is it to say that the government actually knew his worth, but did not take advantage by way of consulting him and taking to his advice?
Well, I don't want to minimize the gesture of today. I was there when His Eminence, the late Christian Cardinal Tumi, was decorated posthumously. Mm-hmm. He is not the first person to have been decorated posthumously, mm-hmm. so we can say that posthumous decoration mm-hmm. is an established practice. But having said that, between you and me, should anyone in this country have waited for Christian Cardinal Tumi to pass away in order to receive a decoration, considering what he represented in this country? On the religious side, his stature as Cameroon's first and so far only cardinal, a source of pride to us Cameroonians, whether you are Christian or some other religion, amongst us Christians, whether you are Catholic or some other denomination. The first and so far only cardinal for our country in itself gave the man the stature that made him deserve all ranges of decoration. Then you take him from the manner in which he conducted himself in performing his charge as cardinal, but before that, or alongside with that, as mm-hmm. Archbishop in Douala, in Garoua, as Bishop in Yagua. Mr. Kum, go and see in all those places where Christian Tumi, let's not give him a title because a succession of titles, worked. Even as rector of the major seminary in Bambui. Every place that he passed, just think of what he achieved in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of creating channels of communication, radios and televisions and all of that. Now, isn't that in itself wouldn't have been worth decoration? Then think of his involvement in terms of the welfare of Cameroonians. This struggle that he was fighting for democracy, peace, justice in our country in so many different ways. When you look at even just that angle alone, wasn't that deserving of a decoration while he was alive? So, I answer your question by saying that I, with other Cameroonians, appreciate the fact that his worth was finally recognized and that he was given a decoration which so many Cameroonians, some of them far less deserving than him, have had. Mm-hmm. They start from one rank to the next, to the next, to the next. You see them when they want to exhibit this thing on their chest is lined up with all that they have had. Come on. Compare any of those to the Cardinal. And you would say that the Cardinal should have been decorated posthumously? Well, we're happy that he was, at last.
You worked so closely with him. How did that start? I want to situate us with respect to the to the Anglophone crisis? When did you meet him and to start working, and what did you learn from him? How did he?
Well, let me tell you, before in fact we fast forward, we take up from the point you're talking about in terms of age and so on. Let's backtrack, in fact, to, I would say, about 1995, 97, 96. I was heading a UN human rights field operation in Rwanda. And Cardinal Tumi came to visit Rwanda on the account of the church. I can't remember exactly now what the event was, whether it was a conference or something, but he came to Rwanda and happened to have been talking to his hosts, the bishop who invited him, and about the Cameroonian community in Kigali. And this bishop mentioned to him that I was there running the human rights operation at a time, the immediate post-genocide of Rwanda, what that meant. And if one looks at the Rwanda today, quite frankly, I mean, it's amazing. For one who saw what Rwanda was then and what Rwanda has become today, it's amazing to see how leadership can change a people's cause. But that's an aside. Anyway, so I then, the Cardinal then insists on meeting me, sends for me, and I go and meet him at the residence of his host.
The bishop?
Yes, and we go into conversation. He takes such an interest in just hearing what our mission is doing and what role we are playing in it and so on, that he decides to interview me. So I sometimes say that I have the singular distinction of having been interviewed by Cardinal for a news magazine. So he conducts an interview and he comes back and he has it published in
the Cameroon Panorama.
No, not Cameroon Panorama. Le Fort.
Okay, Le Fort, yeah.
Le Fort Camerounais. Anyway, and so we established, contact from that point on, and on and off. I cannot say that we're consistently in contact, but on and off, we got in touch. Then came, fast forward now to the circumstances of the AGC. Now, I had formed the opinion right from the beginning of this crisis that we're not going to get out of this crisis without people sitting around the table. And so I went out to advocate the convening of a national dialogue on the Anglophone problem. But I also felt that given the disparity in opinion amongst Anglophones, given the fact that Anglophones didn't have an Anglophone national leadership,
a legitimate
leadership, indeed, because since the abolition of the parliament in Buea, the Buea, where we used to have the House of Assembly would speak for the people of Southern Cameroons. The government of Southern Cameroons, you would say, would speak for the people of Southern Cameroons. Even in terms of the period where we federated state of West Cameroon, we had our government, we had our parliament, we had our justice system, we had our institutions. So you could rely on those institutions to represent and speak for the people of that territory without anybody disputing their legitimacy to do so. But since 1972, with the abolition of those institutions, and the division of that territory into two parts, Northwest and Southwest, the question arises as to who has the legitimacy to speak for the people of Northwest and Southwest jointly. That's been a problem. And so when, in connection with what I was reflecting on, the question became, if you are going to have a meeting of Anglophones, who is to convene them? In my mind, the natural candidates for that were our political leaders, who, one way or the other, were elected by us. And so my choice was our members of National Assembly and senators as our political leaders. Yeah. But I also felt that because we hold very dearly to our chieftaincy institution, traditionally our traditional rulers have been a mainstay of our society, including when they had the House of Chiefs in Boya in those days. You know, so I felt that that would be an additional component about potential conveners of this. And therefore, I went to all our parliamentarians, members of the National Assembly and senators, every one of them personally. Okay. In July of 2017, I went to Yaoundé and met every one of them because the session of parliament was on, urging them to take the role in convening this conference.
Okay, you wanted the senators and MPs,
to be the ones to convene
the Anglophone General Conference,
okay, as the people's representatives, and to be joined in that by traditional rulers as our natural rulers. So that was the idea. But to cut a long story short, which I probably will tell in greater detail someday, but for the purposes of your platform tonight, let's cut it short and say that those people, all of them, I mean, it didn't work out. So the politicians failed us there. Then I said to myself, okay, how about our religious authorities, our religious leaders? They can play this role, especially since the Episcopal Conference of the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province had issued its own diagnosis of the situation, I think back in around the 22nd of December, 2016, as early as that. The Presbyterian Church had issued its own statement, the Baptist, and so on. So I said, well, here is another possibility. Let's turn to the churches. And I was thinking of our incumbents, meaning the Episcopal Conference for the Bamenda Ecclesiastical Province, as far as Catholics are concerned, the moderator of the Presbyterian Church for the Presbyterians, the imams, and for the Baptist, the president, the executive president of the Baptist, and so on. And therefore, I went towards them with the same appeal for them to be the conveners of this. And initially, they agreed to do it, but at some point, for the Catholic participation, we ran into what was presented to me as a problem. And I can mention that today. It's nothing scandalous, but it shows you the way the church has its own hierarchy and how it functions.
The Francophones and Anglophones.
Exactly. I was told by the then president, I said that then because I haven't checked, of the Episcopal Conference, yes. The Bishop, George Mkwo, the Bishop of Kumbu, and he said, Simon, we like your idea and the efforts you are making. We endorse the initiative fully. He's alive, he can confirm that. But we Catholics have a problem because we have only one national Catholic hierarchy. Therefore, if we detach ourselves from the others and take this on, we'll be creating the impression they may charge us of wanting to split
the church,
the Catholic Church in Cameroon. So you go ahead, we give you our blessing with this initiative, etc., etc. Now, meanwhile, unknown to me, the Cardinal had been following up. Because, by the way, Mr. Kum, you remember that one of the first people who interviewed me when I started that exercise was you. You were working with High TV then.
I remember I going down to Limbe, yes, your residence, and you were just coming back from meeting Frunzi in Yaoundé.
Exactly.
And then meeting some of the fronts.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. You know. So, in the midst of that, I published press statements and granted interviews on television and radio and so on. And this caught the Cardinal's attention. I didn't know he was following closely. It caught his attention. So he happens to have been I don't remember under what circumstances, with Bishop Nko.
George, yeah.
Yes. When they were talking about the goings on, and he mentioned to Bishop Nko that he would want to meet me because he's interested in what I've been saying on these issues, but he doesn't have my contact. So His Lordship, Bishop Nko, said, no, but I have Simon's phone number. I can give you. And he did give my number to the Cardinal. And the Cardinal called me and suggested that I come to Douala for us to talk about this. And when I came, I was so thrilled to notice the enthusiasm that the Cardinal had for this proposal, this initiative. Because for me, his moral authority that I keep evoking was crucial. And if one person in my own reading had the uncontested legitimacy, moral legitimacy, to call Anglophones together, I would have said with the Cardinal. So I was very thrilled with that. And once he gave his okay, indicated his willingness to be on this initiative, then I continued my reach out to the other church leaders, and eventually on the 25th of July, I think, 2017, they all met at the Cardinal's residence in Douala. And for some of them, they were meeting for the first time, but they all met and agreed to convene the Anglophone General Conference. And I think there was enthusiasm for that in the country, but the rest of the history, you know.
Okay, but now, were you surprised at the attacks that came towards your person after that?
No, well, I mean, I was distressed, but I wasn't surprised, because unfortunately, in this country, we seem to be characterized by intolerance, an unwillingness to listen to each other, unwillingness to listen to the voice of reason. So I wasn't surprised, because, by the way, in those press releases that I issued, which I referred to back in March of 2017, April of 2017, I did indicate in the write-ups, and some of them were published fully by newspapers, so we can check them, look them up. I did indicate that I knew that this proposal to have an Anglophone preparatory conference would not be endorsed
by
everybody, because there always has been amongst us Anglophones a fringe that believes that the solution to the Anglophone problem is through secession, and that they would obviously not welcome an initiative whose end purpose is to find a solution to ending the sense of assimilation, deep-seated sense of assimilation, which we Anglophones have. So we have to find a solution to end that. And how do you do it? Is it by reform of the state? Between but remaining in Cameroon. So we are Cameroon, but as was initially intended, when it was recognized that we had two different colonial heritages that continued to determine how we run our public affairs in this country, there was a need to maintain both, which has not been fulfilled, has been eroded by the systematic erosion of the heritage of one of those two sides. So we correct that, but we correct that within the Cameroon which we all as a people decided to form on the 1st of October 1961. That's the crux of the matter. It's not more complicated than that. But obviously, those who are bent on secession, independence, call it what they will, would not like that, and so instantly they developed hostility towards the idea. They charged me with misleading the Cardinal, misguiding the Cardinal. The Cardinal granted an interview, I remember, to either one of your competitors, I think it was Equinox, to say, how can Simon Munzo mislead me or misguide me?
Yeah, but can we go back to the AAC one?
Of course.
Yes. Who were the conveners, and what were the rules that you played, you, Barrister Elat Ekuntang, and yes, Carlson and
Professor Carlson and yes.
Yes. Who convened it, and what role did you people play?
Well, again, you see, I hope your listeners, or for that matter, you yourself, for the length of the program.
No, this question is coming from a televiewer.
Okay, all right, very good. This Anglophone problem, because we have to distinguish, especially since 2017, November 2000, we have to distinguish between the Anglophone problem and the Anglophone crisis.
Okay.
Now, the Anglophone problem, in a nutshell, consists in the fact that a federation which our people decided on as a form of the state, under which the Anglophone heritage and the Francophone heritage would both be respected and allowed to coexist peacefully, was breached, incrementally. And again, we can go into that, but incrementally abolish, first make sure that we are all one party. 1966. So the KNDP and the CPNC and One Cameroon and all that, which were vibrant political parties in the Anglophone part of the country, ceased to exist when the leaders of those parties agreed with President Ahidjo to dissolve their parties and form a single party. We can't blame Ahidjo alone. That was a decision taken amongst them. But the consequence of that was that the people of Southern Cameroon's Federated State of West Cameroon no longer had a political party which they controlled.
Which could speak on their behalf.
Who can speak on their behalf. Okay? Come 1972, the federation is abolished. So there is no parliament in Buea anymore. There is no government in Buea anymore. There is no judiciary in Buea anymore. Everything is in Yaoundé. Meaning that the seal has been placed on the ability of Anglophones to meet, discuss, organize, speak for themselves. And yet, the phenomenon of marginalization, domination, assimilation, today I will say takeover, went deeper and deeper and deeper. That's the Anglophone problem. That's the Anglophone problem. So, at the tripartite conference in 92, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. At the tripartite conference in 1992, I attended that conference as part of the CPDM delegation, because I was then National Secretary for Economic and Social Affairs of the Central Committee of the CPDM. Okay? Barrister Elat attended as a part of the LDA, Liberal Democratic Alliance delegation. Professor Carlson Anyangwe attended as an independent personality, although he was a founding member of the SDF, but he attended a meeting as an independent personality.
Okay.
And Minister Benjamin Itoy attended that meeting as a member of government. Now, the four of us happened to have found ourselves in the 11-member committee that was appointed by the tripartite to go and draw up a new constitution. And when we got into discussions in that committee, the four of us, especially us three, me, Anyangwe, and Elat, Minister Itoe, not so much. Understandably, he was a member of government. But the three of us took the view that, echoing what we had heard on the floor of the tripartite during the plenary sessions, there is a deep sense of the Anglophone problem. It has been expressed there. And since our brief here is to come up with a new constitution for the country, we should propose to the tripartite, when we go back to report to them, propose to them a constitution that would allow us, the Cameroonian nation, to solve the Anglophone problem. And that, in our own thinking and analysis, that meant returning to the federal system. And we therefore strongly advocated that the draft constitution coming out of that, out of our work, should be a federal draft constitution, you know. But of course, this was vehemently opposed by our chair, Professor Joseph Owona, and other members of the committee, in a committee that was 4 Anglophone and 7 Francophone. But we felt that this, our demand in committee, needed to be brought to the attention of the Anglophones population. Mm-hmm. And the way to do that, we believed, was to call an Anglophone conference. But again, as I said earlier, at some point earlier, the question was, who has the legitimacy to call Anglophones together? We searched, we racked our brains, and we didn't see. So we decided that, well, since we were appointed, designated to be in this committee, and we are Anglophones, we can use our capacity as members of the committee to call Anglophones and say, hey, this is how things are standing up. You people should better be aware about it, and let's know what to do. That is what motivated our convening the AAC in Boya.
So the three of you convened?
The three of us convened, but I have to say that Minister Itoe's name was included among the conveners, mm-hmm. although he did not sign the convening notice. But as far as we were concerned, the 4 Anglophones in the constitutional drafting committee convened that meeting, and we were astonished ourselves by the response, which showed you was a measure of the feeling amongst Anglophones about this thing of assimilation and so on. The turnout in Boya, as everybody recalls, was phenomenal. A meeting convened by 3 people who otherwise didn't have any particular standing in the country. So that's how the Anglophone the All Anglophone Conference came about. And after 2 days of deliberation, or was it 3, we came out with a proper diagnosis of the situation, consigned in the document called the Boya Declaration, addressed this to the government to say, this is the Anglophone problem, and here are ideas about possible solution. But that was, brushed aside, and nothing was done. Okay.
Henry, watching from the United States, says that the problem is that it was called All Anglophone Conference, that it should have been called the Southern Cameroon Conference. It did not. I don't know what it means.
Well, I mean, I can see where he's coming from, but again, that he's coming from for the benefit of hindsight. Mm-hmm. We weren't. Let me tell my dear compatriot Henry that the three of us weren't stepping out there to be some kind of revolutionaries. No, we were working in the context of an attempt to address what we presented to be a problem within the constitutional draft, within first of all, the tripartite conference, which had been convened by the president of the republic. So we weren't going there as revolutionaries. So because of course there's the question of terminology even today, even in 2021, Mr. Kum, yeah. Are we not still talking about Anglophone Cameroon? We want to refer to Northern and Southwest jointly? Because unfortunately, and let truth be told, our territory has not really had a name. It is the one country in the world which is designated by cardinal points in succession. Southern Cameroons, Cardinal Point. West Cameroon, Cardinal Point. Northwest, Cardinal Point. Southwest, Cardinal Point. So when you place yourself at any particular moment and want to describe this territory, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, so for us, in the context in which we were in what was it now? Designating Northwest and Southwest together, for us, Anglophone was enough. Because at the time.
Okay. Yes, but something came out of the AAC1. There was an AAC1 and AAC2.
Yeah.
And you took part in the constitutional committee.
Drafting committee, yes.
Yes. Where the things that were agreed on, were they agreed upon?
No.
They were not taken into consideration?
No, not at all. As I told you, because we, following on the All Anglophone Conference, we drafted a constitution which was meant to be the contribution of Anglophones, Southern Cameroonians, if you like, to the constitutional reform process which the President of the Republic started at the time. You know, so up to this day, we have the document, the draft federal constitution submitted by the executive organ that emerged from the AAC in Buea, namely the Anglophone Standing Committee. That was submitted in July of 1993. If it had been accepted and elements have been picked out of it for us genuinely to try to solve the problem, we wouldn't have been where we are today, but it was rejected outright. Then we met in Bamenda the following year, AAC2, and noticed that, observed that all our efforts writing to the government, appealing and all of that had received no response whatsoever, and the Bamenda Proclamation was adopted to say that, which said in a sense that the government was given a reasonable time to respond to the grievances of the Anglophones, and if upon the expiration of that reasonable time there was no response, then without the need to convene a third All-Anglophone conference, the Southern Cameroon's National Council should transform into a constitutional assembly and declare the restoration of the state of the Southern Cameroons and use all means to defend it. That was consigned in the proclamation, yes.
The proclamation?
Yes.
You were a part of it?
I was already a part of it, but I'm the one who read, because I was at this time spokesperson of the SCNC. So I am the one who read the proclamation.
Is that what they talk of the zero tolerance?
Yes, exactly. That was where they talk of the zero tolerance, and precisely because I am the one who read that proclamation in the midst of the present crisis. The separatists have taken me to task, saying how I'm a sellout. After having read that, I'm now saying that I am not for separation and secession and all of that, which is a misrepresentation. But you know, in this context, people use all sorts of things for that. I say it's a misrepresentation because the Bamenda Proclamation was a compromise between those who already in 1994 those who in 1994 already were agitating for independence and separation. Okay. And then there were, quote unquote, moderates who said, no, we don't need to go that far. Our push should be to make sure that the Anglophone problem consisting in this marginalization and assimilation is addressed, but within the confines of Cameroon. And I happen to have been amongst the quote-unquote moderates. So the compromise in that resolution, for in deference to the separatists, or if you like, to the moderates, we said we give the government a reasonable time, and it was not specified, it was not defined. We said give the government a reasonable time to come up with solutions, and in deference to the separatists, secessionists, we said, okay, if that reasonable time passes and nothing happens, then declare independence. So you had a compromise between, if you like, what you will call today the federalists, moderates. And the moderates, and the separatists. Now, I was a federalist then, and I remain to this day. You can verify even the interview that I granted to CRTV, the only TV at the time, in a program called Cameroon, Dimanche. In fact, on one day, on the 23rd of July 1993, I appeared on Cameroon Calling radio in the morning, on Dimanche Midi radio at noon, and Actualité Hebdo. I don't know, I remember that was the name of the program. Actualité Hebdo, CRTV, yeah, exactly, in the evening, to speak about these things. And already at that point, I made it repeatedly clear the need for us to return to the federal system of government to solve the Anglophone problem.
Okay, before we get to understanding where things went wrong to the level where it is today, I've read several people accusing you, Dr. Simon Munzo, for using the government to get a job at the United Nations organization, that you could not have gotten that without an okay of the government, when we know that persons like Bobala have worked for the UN and a host of others. How do we understand this?
Well, again, I mean, that's laughable. I've heard it over and over again, where my detractors cook that up, which makes them look rather ridiculous. Because of my stand on the Anglophone problem from within the ruling CPDM.
Many persons may not know that you used to militate with the CPDM.
Yes, of course, I did. As I said, I attended the tripartite conference at which I took this firm Anglophone stand as a member of the delegation of the CPDM, where I was National Secretary for Economic and Social Affairs of the Central Committee of the CPDM. So it was from within the party that I said the mere fact that I'm in the CPDM doesn't mean that I cannot and should not advocate something which I know to be close to the hearts and minds of our people. So I took that stand within from inside the CPDM, and ultimately I resigned from the CPDM. But I went a step further, because my position on this matter created problems for me as a civil servant, because remember, I was teaching at the University of Yaoundé, right? Yeah. I was teaching at the University of Yaoundé. So my position on this matter made my career at the university difficult to handle. And so I was faced with a choice. Either I resign from the civil service and therefore maintain my ability to speak out, or remain in the civil service and the system will make sure that I don't speak out. And I made my choice. I wrote a letter of resignation from the civil service, giving up my job at the University of Yaoundé, where I was senior lecturer in law. And for the next 1 year, I did nothing in terms of earning an income, but I kept my mouth open on the Anglophone problem. And then I got an opportunity to go to Rwanda, I mentioned Rwanda earlier, to go to Rwanda as a UN volunteer. Now you go and ask anybody who knows anything about the United Nations, and then I tell you how, in order to become a United Nations volunteer,
you
need the support of your country, the
yeah.
government, and all that nonsense. What was my profile? A Cambridge PhD, teaching at the University of Yaoundé for at least something like between 12 and 13 years at the time. I had the profile that I had to join the UN.
As a volunteer.
No, it wouldn't have been as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
But I went in as a volunteer. And I thank my God that having started in those conditions, I rose within the UN from that measly volunteer to the point of retiring as Assistant Secretary General. I thank my God for that. But I can tell you, looking at Cameroon people straight in the eye, the government of Cameroon had nothing to do with that. And if there's anybody in the government of Cameroon who feels they had anything to do with that, let them step forward. So this nonsense about how, yes, it is the President Biya who got me a job at the United Nations, and now it's payback time. So what I'm doing now is payback.
Okay,
complete nonsense.
Hello, sir. Good evening. I wish to say goodbye to the Cardinal, and I wish God will take him and place him in his right hand. I am Stephen, writing from Com, that is in Boyo Division. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm indeed happy with your program. Please, I would like to ask from Doctor on what form of government can be used to solve the Anglophone crisis, since the federal system is a taboo to the government of Cameroon, which you are in support. Motale Ferdinand is writing from Yaoundé. I'm not sure. He said he was in support of the government. Let Dr. Munzo tell us what is a reasonable time per the Bamenda proclamation, now that we are in 2021. Ngwayi is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, the studio. I'm Carl Johnson in Boya. I want to tell a doctor that he knows the history of Anglophones very well. Okay, thank you there. Good evening in the studio. Christian Cardinal Tumi was a father for all. He has helped a lot of people, especially in this our ongoing crisis. This name will always remain in our minds. His soul rest, may his soul rest in peace. Agnes is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I am Achukwi Daniel in Poli. Poli should be somewhere in the north. Please ask Dr. Munzo how can get a copy of the Anglophone draft constitution after the AAC.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Should I react to this? Okay. Yes. Well, I mean, to the brother or sister of my son or daughter, depending upon their age, who asked about federation. Well, my dear, federation remains, to my mind, the ideal solution to solving the Anglophone problem, for the simple reason that it entails recognizing the reality that our country, as born on the 1st of October 1961, was the coming together of two territories, each of them with a separate heritage, bequeathed by our different colonial experiences, which we did not desire, but they were imposed on us, and they became part of who we are. So, to solve the problem, we need to go back to respecting those two heritages. And that is why, from that perspective, the proposal has been made to return to the federal system of government. Now, the question that has arisen, and we must not avoid the elephant in the room, is a federation of how many states? Mm-hmm. Should we just go back to the Anglophone bloc as it was under as Federal State of West Cameroon, and the Francophone bloc as it was as a federated state of East Cameroon? Or should we, responding to the aspirations of Cameroonians in all the regions, where we all see that, for example, if you have just the two-state federation, in the federated state of East Cameroon, whatever other name it may be given today, the problem of the distance of the people from the center of government and administration will still remain. Okay, a person in the far north will still feel as far from Yaoundé as they are feeling today.
That's people in the north.
People in the north,
Syria,
Kuseri, you know, people in the east would be aspiring for one reason or the other for their own regional autonomy. So there is an issue, and that's why we keep talking about a need for dialogue, because these matters have to be put on the table, discussed, and addressed. It's not people shouting solutions at each other. And that was the Cardinal's spirit, Cardinal Tumi's spirit. Because there is an issue there. Should we Anglophones be fighting only to say, oh, well, listen, we want our federated state back as it was in 1961. Now, the rest of you Francophones, you can stay with your thing there, even if you in the north are complaining about being too far from Yaoundé, too bad for you. No, we can't have that. We can't adopt that attitude. You know, so the need to respond to the aspirations of Cameroonians all over the national territory towards autonomy that brings the government nearer to them dictates that we consider the possibility of having a 10-state federation where today's regions would be erected into federated states. The other aspect of this, which again is another elephant that we must not, in the room that we must not try to avoid, Mr. Kum,
is the Northwest-Southwest divide.
Exactly. The Northwest-Southwest divide. I am from the Southwest. You are from the Northwest. Let's not pretend, go into denial, just as people are denying the existence of the Anglophone problem. Let us not try to do the same by denying the reality of this sense of dichotomy, however irrational it may be, psychologically or otherwise, is there between Northwest and Southwest. So in the course of dialogue, discussion, and so on, this issue we should not be a taboo.
You can get it the right formula.
Exactly. Should be put on the table, and let's talk about it. And so you may well, you may well have a form. If people were, if we Cameroonians were honest, and the Cardinal like to talk about intellectual honesty. If we were intellectually honest, Mr. Kum, the solution that we would have would be, and I'm sure that the solution that the Cardinal would have supported would have been, that you return to the two-state federation, because your first line of the cut is Anglophone heritage, Francophone heritage. So to take care of that, you return to the two-state federation. But within each of the federated states, you have autonomy for the regions. So the Southwest,
similar to what Dr. Ningwanyam is saying.
Yeah, when he talks of confederation and all of that.
Yeah.
So you have the if you like, regional autonomy within a two-state federation. So in the federated state that is meant to preserve and foster the heritage of the Anglophones, you would have
the common, the English subsystem,
the system of education,
common law,
common law system, even the method of policing, you know, even the method of treating news. You are in the news, in the news business. You know that even the way people treat information. We have a culture of people being entitled to a right to information. Is a public right, so the people must have access to it. And to the extent that there are differences in this, you have an Anglophone federated state, a Francophone federated state, but within each of those two federated states, you have regional autonomy. That's one possibility. The other possibility is to say, well, save us that extra level of federated state, let's just go straight into 10 federated states, where each of today's regions is a federated state. In that case, then, Mr. Kum, in that case, to address that issue of the dual heritage, you will then have to write into your constitution that on matters of common interest, any two or more regions can get together and develop a common policy and a common strategy. What would that mean in practical terms? That when it comes to the Anglophone subsystem of education, the Northwest state and the Southwest state should have the possibility of together forming a common policy, a common strategy, a common implementation in the area which the matters which they have in common. Education and the law. And the law. Those are only two examples, but there are several others. Okay. And similarly on the Francophone side. So the entire thing is still open, wide open for discussion, and that is why it is imperative that there should be a national dialogue on the Anglophone problem. National dialogue away from what took place a genuine 2019. Yeah, we characterize that in terms of having a genuine national dialogue on the Anglophone problem, and that should be preceded, just because of these intra Anglophone issues, that needs to be preceded by a getting together of the Anglophones, a preparatory conference of Anglophones. In other words, like the Cardinal and his peers convened the Anglophone General Conference. Okay. Good evening. Many calls. Oh, by the way, okay. I don't want to appear to have dodged any question, because I want to ask what I consider to be reasonable time. Yeah, I mean, as I say, in 1994, the Bamenda Proclamation did not define reasonable time, left it as open-ended as that. So it is for everybody to appreciate what they consider to be reasonable time and what they don't, because as the questioner would recognize, there are no fixed criteria for determining reasonable time. What we are disappointed with, all of us, is that the government towards which our grievances as contained in the Boya Declaration, our grievances as contained in the Bamenda Proclamation, did not pay any attention to any of those grievances. Now, so did they need 3 years, 10 years, 15 years to do that? I don't have the answer to that. But all I can say to this my young compatriot, I guess a young person, younger than me, I must be, is that that's an open question, and anybody can form their own opinion about reasonable time. Okay. Good evening, Leonard. Gentlemen, I just want to know from Dr. Munzo, who overturned the verdict of the UN referendum as 64 countries voted for the independence of British Southern Cameroon and 25 countries voted against, while 10 member countries were neutral. I don't know when did any such thing happen. Well, again, you see, I mean, one doesn't want to sound too technical. Yes, in a way that happened, but this is another example of where the separatists distort things in order to give credence to their followers, so to speak. But I have to say, that's not going to get us anywhere. That's why I say we cannot go by intellectual dishonesty. Now, this thing about 64, the vote was 64. Let's figure out again. 64 what? So 64. 64 countries voted for the independence of British Southern Cameroon. 25 countries voted against, while 10 member countries were neutral. Yes, exactly. But to begin with, the fact that 64 voted in favor of granting Southern Cameroon's independence by joining La République. It's a binding decision. Okay. But the majority, the independence is by joining. Oh yes, the independence is by joining. No, that was never on the table. Never. Okay. Never. There was never a vote on that. It is that security is not security. That General Assembly Resolution 1608 15 that they keep quoting is the one that drew this pattern of voting. So the fact that 64 voted in favor of the resolution carried. But where it is even more disingenuous for separatists, as part of trying to poison the hearts and minds of those who believe them, is that they keep saying that amongst those who voted against was France. That amongst who voted against was Cameroon. And so they say, how can we be in union with Cameroon when Cameroon voted against our independence by joining them? Again, it's misleading, because that's not what it was. Now, what they don't tell their followers who get these things to them, from them, some of them without much reflection, is that Republic of Cameroon was unhappy about the outcome of the plebiscite in northern Cameroons, voting to join Nigeria, to the point where the Republic of Cameroon took the matter to the International Court of Justice at The Hague, asking for the International Court of Justice to issue an advisory opinion about the plebiscite, the conduct of the plebiscite in northern Nigeria, because northern Cameroon rather, because of what the alleged irregularities and all the rest. And the International Court of Justice is on record as having ruled on the matter. I mean, it didn't go very far, because it started by declining jurisdiction, so the matter was never examined on the merits. But the interesting thing, however, from this angle of the propaganda of the separatists, is that the Republic of Cameroon and France did not vote for that resolution because it was a resolution that dealt jointly. It dealt with both northern Cameroons and southern Cameroons. If there had been a separate resolution dealing only with northern Cameroons and a separate one dealing only with southern Cameroons, it's unthinkable that Republic of Cameroon, which had campaigned in the discussions with Frontier and all, had campaigned in favor of independence by joining them, would have voted against.
Okay.
But the part of the resolution that recognized the outcome of the results concerning northern Nigeria, well, northern Cameroons, is what the Republic of Cameroon had an issue with.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and our great historian, doctor. Is he trying to say Southern Cameroon has never had independence? And where is the word restoration of the independence of Southern Cameroon coming from?
Indeed, let the questioner ask those who are talking about restoring the independence of Southern Cameroons. We had independence on the 1st of October 1961 by joining. Now, it may sound crazy, and we are entitled to say this is nonsense. How could they give us independence by joining? But that's what we got. That's what we got. So we got independence because, remember, the question at the plebiscite was, do you wish to achieve independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria or the Republic of Cameroon? And our people in Southern Cameroons voted in favor of achieving independence by joining Republic of Cameroon. Our brothers and sisters in Northern Cameroons, voting on the same day, by the way, on the same day, voted in favor of achieving independence by joining Nigeria. And today they are in Nigeria. Today they are in Nigeria. You know, so and then this is the next step that our people need to get clarity on. On that 1st of October 1961, two things happened, and they happened simultaneously at the same minute. At midnight on the night of September 30th, to October 1st, 1961, Southern Cameroons achieved independence. Okay? And that is what marked the ending of the trusteeship agreement between the United Kingdom and the United Nations over this territory, because this territory achieved its independence and Britain was out. The United Kingdom was out. But at that same moment,
they were joining.
At that same moment, they joined Republic of Cameroon. And a new country, a new state was born called the Federal Republic of Cameroon. And under the constitution which came into force at that same moment, the constitution of 1st of October 1961, which again separatists in their propaganda tried to deny the validity of. Now, at that same moment, because the Federal Republic of Cameroon was born, made up of the Federated State of West Cameroon, former British Trust Territory of the Southern Cameroons, and the Federated State of East Cameroon, former Republic of Cameroon.
To form a
new country, Federal Republic of Cameroon. Mm-hmm. So all that happened simultaneously. Maybe if we had a situation where Southern Cameroon got its independence first,
for some months, 6
months, a year, gave it time to negotiate properly with La République on terms equal to equal sovereign states, as Zanzibar did with Tanganyika. You know, maybe it would have been a different ball game, but we didn't get that. So our people should be clear in terms of time, that the timeline, that this is what happened. But let me just end that again to highlight something that people may want to downplay, but is very significant. Do you know that at that same moment we're talking about, the sovereign state of Republic of Cameroon ceased to exist? It ceased to exist, and it became simply the Federated State of East Cameroon in the new country called Federal Republic of Cameroon. The newly independent, if you like, instantly independent state of Southern Cameroons ceased to exist and became the Federated State of West Cameroon. So our grievance, especially going to 1984, with the restoration of the name Republic of Cameroon, is precisely this: that Republic of Cameroon as a sovereign state ceased to exist. And it is clearly spelled out in Article 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Cameroon. So our grievance is, how can you, who ceased to exist in 1961, come back to life in 1984 without and then extend your rule over us? Because it's one of two things. Either Republic of Cameroon in 1984, by declaring its revival, bolted out of, if you like, seceded from the Federal Republic of Cameroon, right? Or it declared its re-emergence, and instead of seceding from the Republic of Cameroon, stayed in there, but was still extended its rule over West Cameroon, which stayed in the Union. Okay. Did not go anywhere. So these are the complexities of the situation, which once again require that we dispassionately examine all of this.
Okay, because people are following, they really want to know. Somebody has sent, I'm sure, section 5 of the resolution 1608, which reads, I'll start with A, which says, with respect to the Northern Cameroons, on 1st June 1961, yes, upon its joining the Federation of Nigeria as a separate province of the northern region of Nigeria.
That's it.
To B, with respect to the Southern Cameroons, on October 1st, 1961, upon its joining the Republic of Cameroon.
Exactly.
Okay, 5 says invites the administering authority, the Cameroon. Okay, the administering authority, the Cameroon government. No, the government of Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon to initiate urgent discussions with a view of finalizing before October 1st, 1961, the arrangements by which the agreed and declared policies of the parties concerned would be implemented. Exactly what you said.
That's exactly what I said. So that's exactly what I said, because you see, the first thing they do is they say independence on the as regards Southern Cameroon's October 1st, 1961. So that's right there is a statement of the grant of our independence following our choice made on the 11th of February 1961. But then, as at that date, that's what I was saying, that with respect to Northern Nigeria, as at that date, 21st of April 1961, all the discussions between the parties concerned with Northern Nigeria were concluded. Okay. That's why they said, now we know the outcome. The outcome is that Northern Cameroon is going to become a province in
Nigeria,
in one of the regions of Nigeria, the northern region. Okay, so the outcome was clear. Now, with respect to Southern Cameroons, they knew that there had been discussions ongoing. Okay, the parties had been talking about what kind of state shall we have from the 1st of October 1961. But as at 21st of April 1961, that discussion, those negotiations had not been concluded. Okay? As per the report received on progress on that front by the United Nations General Assembly as at this date. The Assembly therefore calls on the three parties concerned. So you guys go, initiate talks, but do it urgent. Do it urgently so that by the 1st of October you are done.
Let me take so quickly. So you're not going to answer that because
okay. All right. Okay.
The truth is that there is no problem with the form of state because one, Cameroon's system of governance, which is decentralization, remains the best system in the whole world, and Paul Biya is highly appreciated for that. Two, Cameroon government has the best advisors like His Excellency Issa Chiroma, who has always worked for the progress of this great nation and will help to end the Anglophone crisis. Can be promised. Militants of FSNC in the Northwest. Okay. Good evening, sir. Please, can you elaborate on why there was a plebiscite in February and independence in October? I'm sure that was a period that they said they should engage in discussions before then. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to the panelists. Wish to ask our doctor whether before the plebiscite, how many stars were on the La République du Cameroon flag, and where is the other star on that flag? What does it signify? Baristus, writing from Yaoundé. Please, Mr. Liu, good evening. I enjoyed the program. Ask Doctor, why is it that Mr. Biya was given 2 maps in 2010 by a UN delegation? What is the implication of that? Good evening, Mr. Liu. So we had a government in Cameroon. Apollo Atanga is writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Apollo. Okay, Mr. Liu, please ask Doctor about South Sudan, Eritrea, and the rest. Okay. Good evening. Where are the other regions now that they are guns in the Northwest and Southwest? Please tell us if we are brothers. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to Dr. Munzo, the legal expert. Accept greetings from Boya. My name is Harris. Please, I went to find out from the legal expert what his opinion is about people who claim that no union treaty exists between the Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroon, to have commented the overwhelming decision to join La République. Does this have an impact? Question 2. What does the UN Charter say about unification of two previous separate entities? I'm talking in merging of two nations. Where is the legal, what is the legal procedure? Why did Dr. Munzo join in giving a reasonable time in Bamenda when he knew that separation is not possible? Ngwayi in Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Renee writing from Southwest. Please stop calling. Stop the calls. Just send a message. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Renee writing from the Southwest, precisely in Soko. I just want to thank you for this program put in place, for it really sensitizing some of us to know more about the history of this country. God bless you. God bless you too. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Extend my greetings to Dr. his in-law in Kumba for Belinda, USA. God will continue to bless you. Irene Mensa. I don't know whether you know her. Okay. Hi. There is no independence without education. We want to go to school. Stop killing innocent people. Good evening to you. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Kudos. If the government is wise enough, they should take what Dr. Munzo has explained about federalism and implement it. Iska writing from Mile 16 Perika. Good evening to you. Good evening to everyone in the studio, and especially to you, Mr. Liu and Doctor. We have talked about this Anglophone problem for too long. I see the government is not willing to solve this problem. The government have had a so-called dialogue with Anglophones. I think it's time for them to have a genuine dialogue. Okay. Bless is writing from Tombel. Good evening to you, Bless. Please, Dr. Simon, from my little knowledge from history, I was told that Southern Cameroons were not given the chance of a third option, which makes you think that if Southern Cameroonians were given the third option, Cameroons wouldn't have been okay. Julade is writing from Douala. Your message is not too clear. Achukwi Daniel in police says, Mr. Kum, please ask Dr. Munzo whether he knows that a group of intellectuals are going to get independence for former British Cameroon using only the pen and not war. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Dr. Munzo. How do you see a Cameroon different from the present? Where did the rain start beating us? Neville is writing from Mancho Street in Bamenda. Mr. Liu, please tell your guests that all French Cameroonians are fine, so we can't suffer killings, burnings, torture, cause of them. Two-state federation if we want to manage. Okay. Hi, Mr. Liu. I'm not understanding what doctor is explaining. Christabel is writing from Douala. This one says, Dr. Munzo, I hail you for your great insight. Dr. Munzo, I hail you for all what you have said this evening. Is Prince Motapene Modika writing from Penja. Good evening, Mr. Leo, Mr. Sivas, writing from Douala. I just wanted to know the Anglophones as a people that made up the territory of Southern Cameroons under the United Nations Charter on Human Rights. Doesn't we have a right to self-determination?
Well, I mean, there's been so many questions, yes, which shows the degree of interest in the subject, for which I compliment. I've
not read one right. Quarter of what is here. Yes.
Well, at least it shows the level of interest, and I'm not surprised because I mean, after all, this is a burning issue for Cameroon and for Cameroonians. And I said in my my tribute to the Cardinal that he is gone, but the work that he started has to continue, because indeed he was working towards resolving a problem. That problem exists. It did not die with him. So what do we do? His legacy. Yes. Doesn't that mean then that you and I and everybody else, including those who are governing us today and those who are aspiring to govern us someday, shouldn't we all, excuse me, in the spirit of the Cardinal, recognize that the problem still exists, and that because it exists, we all have to work towards finding a solution, and not have measures. Not if it's dialogue, we need a genuine dialogue. You know, we can take what we've had so far. I would say, okay, that's a good starting point. But because it is only a starting point, we can all see that it hasn't yet gotten us to a solution. And because it hasn't gotten us to a solution, we have to continue to look for the solution until we find it, as the Cardinal would have loved for us to do, and that would be the best way, in which we could honor the Cardinal, we the Cameroonian people.
You left the agency.
Oh,
the Cardinal.
By the way, when you say I left the agency, that was it.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you coming back because the Cardinal is no more?
Well, I don't know. But to begin with, just to be very clear, because I like to be clear on these things, I stepped down as coordinator of the organizing committee, because, by the way, the Cardinal had been told, as he reported to us and to the College of Conveners, gave us feedback, that he had been told by some separatist leaders who had called him to say, well, you know, Cardinal, we would have nothing against that your agency if Dr. Simon Munzo were not associated with it. And so, I mean, apart from the threats that I was receiving, very open and direct threats to my life, I also felt, and I told the Cardinal, I said, Your Eminence, if it is true that these young people are going to try to stop, to derail this initiative because of me, then in order to save the initiative, I will step down. So I stepped down as coordinator. But as I told you earlier, the Cardinal, we remained closely in touch, in contact on these issues, including when he worked on the document that he submitted at the major national dialogue. But we all know that, he attended the dialogue, made his contribution, but he felt, like many of us do feel, that the dialogue did not go far enough towards getting us a solution. Therefore, the problem remains, and therefore, the search for a solution has to continue.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Cameroon is a country of technocrats. This is an internal crisis, and I think Mr. Bia is the perfect person to solve the crisis. Student Damien is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you. The messages will not allow me to read.
very quickly, because I guess we'll be drawing towards a close, I suppose. Someone asked if the copy of the draft federal constitution was obtainable. Yes, I do have a copy. So I don't know.
Is it in soft?
No, unfortunately, it's not in soft. In those days when we produced it, there was no soft. so I have a hard copy, but we can arrange. I'm sure there may be most people who can help to reproduce it eventually and reissue it, make it available to people, because indeed people have been asking to see it, even just for the curiosity of seeing the content.
It's just about giving it back to be typed by.
Right, exactly. So I can make my own copy available. If we can retype it and reissue it, that would be great. That would be of service. There are issues that unfortunately we don't have time, but again, they form part of the separatist propaganda, unfortunately, as I say, because one is this thing about the two maps. I mean, very quickly, it happened to be that Cameroon was commemorating its 50th anniversary, and the president of the General Assembly for that year, because the General Assembly presidency changes every year, happens to have been invited to Cameroon. And before he left to travel to Cameroon, I found all of this out later, because until the Ambazonian started talking about it, I didn't even know there was that particular incident, so to speak. He asked advice as to what he could take to Cameroon as a present to the Cameroonian people, obviously handed through the head of state. And he was advised by a Cameroonian who was working with him, and if anybody wants the name, inbox me and I'll give you the name of the gentleman. He's still in New York. So the Cameroonian advised him that because he was going in connection with the commemoration of unification, he should take the two maps, the maps of the two territories that came together as a reminder that this is what you were 50 years ago, but see what you are now. As a matter of fact, I'm sure the gentleman will not be mind if I called his name. It's Jean-Victor Nkolo. Called him and asked him. So this was a present brought in those circumstances. Now, many people have capitalized on it to say, well, this was a UN saying that we were two separate countries. And it was a reminder, indeed, of what we had been before. The other very quick issue is the one about Union Treaty. Mr. Kum, that paragraph 5 of the Security Council, the UN General Assembly resolution that you read, 1608, does it say anything there about concluding a Union Treaty? It asks the parties to go and continue the discussion urgently, determine the arrangements by which the decision of February 11 was going to be implemented. Now, the parties may or may not sign a treaty. It was not a requirement. But let me tell you again, for the benefit of your viewers, again trying to dispel all the misinformation out there. Those who push this thing from within the separatist ranks keep referring to Article 104 of the UN Charter. No, by the way, 102.
Okay. Yeah, many persons raise the issue of
102 of the UN Charter. Now, Article 102 of the UN Charter says in paragraph 1 that member states of the UN, when they sign a treaty, should serve.
When they come together.
No, not when they come together. Okay. You know, when any treaty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people sign trade agreements, agreements on any subject. Mm-hmm. But if any member state of the United Nations enters into an agreement or a treaty with another member state, that agreement or treaty should be registered with the Secretary General of the UN. Okay? So it creates an obligation. Register your treaties with the Secretary of the UN, who has to publish them. Okay? Paragraph 2 goes on to say that failure to do this. Now, listen, this is important because the charter states creates an obligation, but at the same time says what is the consequences of not respecting the obligation. What is the consequence of not respecting that obligation? The consequence is that the parties are forbidden from invoking that treaty before any organ of the UN. You understand? Lawyers will understand this. It is not that the treaty in question would be invalid between the parties. No. It is that none of the parties to that treaty which has not been registered can invoke it before any organ of the UN. Go and read. That's what it says. And here, the La République, as they keep calling it, is not invoking anything at the UN. They themselves are not invoking any treaty at the UN. So where does 102 paragraph 2 come into play? Now, it is all this lack of intellectual integrity, intellectual honesty that is causing a lot of this disinformation amongst us and making it very hard to find a solution to this problem. But we have to keep trying.
I wish we have another opportunity to run through this program, because we've not even touched half of what we're supposed to discuss.
Well, I'm willing to come back anytime you want, including virtually these days. One doesn't have to be physically present to do. Okay,
we could do it.
We could do it by Skype or whatever.
We want to say thank you for.
Of course, in fact, of course. So thank you very much for this opportunity. In the spirit of Christian Cardinal Tumi, a man of dialogue, a man of discussion, a man of intellectual integrity, we have to continue to exchange among ourselves, Cameroonians, until we find a solution to our problem.
Okay, we want to thank you all televiewers who took time off to watch the program. Thank you to you, Desmond, Eli, Bertrand, and Noel, and to you, Tabi, Tambe Bryant, and thank you all our televiewers across the globe. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
This is Ekona, one of the hotspots of the ongoing Anglophone crisis. Fako Division have been noted as to be the key area within Anglophone crisis. This is Ekona town, and of course we are in Ekona market, where we get to understand the prices and the situation of those who are doing their buying and selling. It's not been an easy one to sell in Ekona market, especially with the advent of the ongoing Anglophone crisis coupled with the coronavirus outbreak. The people here are really struggling to cope, and it is difficult to do business. The crisis have displaced many and have cost the lives of many people, including women and children. Military men and women and fighters of the non-state armed groups have always been at the forefront. Most of them have been killed, but the war still continues. The people of Ekona are gradually returning to their homes, even though some have been burnt down. Considerable amount of people can only be seen in Ekona at the market. The market is not as full as it used to be. It is scanty in some areas.
It happened last week for Ekona market for Tuesday. In Mekan today, plenty buyers and no come. So as you see the way the market is scanty, and all man the buy cooking for Harry Goyi has me that very thing not happen either for market. But at least we push and small. We cannot be denied it in our place.
The market is go where we try. Thank you.
Market today not say market dry. Market not big.
As compared to the other weeks, they hide on
the other week the market we don't start the enter. So as shooting can parties Tuesday and Friday. So market people don't run their back.
All we just come for market, just cash it on for market, just the look na place. Buyers they no day again, they need green for car market. But anyhow, as the Bible talk, any small way enter for you, you take and you thank God. At least you'll get your own small way, you'll manage house too for that day.
For the past 2 weeks and now, how you don't do?
For the past 2 weeks, it be better. It be better for the past 2 weeks. But no, it be better small for the past 2 weeks. It be better. But these days, then so yesterday, so only gone Tuesday, Wednesday, it be bad. It be bad. Only gone. We be there for we make all man the run. Then you even ask yourself, say, they gone the come on over which direction? You need to know they can't connect direction. They gone the come out. Because why hear the hell about this and prap? You hear a pop up. You hear a boom. That means you find a way and say me you run the gun for house. You need to find a way for say me you even stand for even though they can't come away they come out. Because you don't know who's away if you come out, it can't come to you. Yes. You know come away if you come out can't come to you. So any man for be very careful for himself. Especially the area now, so we ought to be very, very careful.
As Corona don't come and this wahala, how will they survive Corona?
Well, for Corona and the wahala, we go take and say na twins birth, as we put them. Twins, because we manage all. You come for this sign now, for this war, we already be used to small with the struggle for management. Corona too, they don't give we all the 19 steps and when I would take and now with the follow and for see how we manage them. Because na some deadly disease way. If it be say you know manage them as you contaminate, if you go finish all your family all for inside house, so we just get to take very care. We get to take care for ourselves for see how we manage them. Then we'll survive them. As the country to the fight to for them to maybe to begin struggle to for see how we survive them to join with the country. They say when you join hands together, at least now we fight them. This crisis, the business perspective, I cannot tell you a lie. Ekona is no longer booming as it was before. It's no longer booming. Things are very, very expensive. If you go to where they sell cocoyams, can you imagine a basin of cocoyams 18,000 francs, 20,000 francs? Can you imagine? How are we going to cope? So we have to struggle. For us who are selling fish, pepper like this, we go to Conjecam to buy. They impose prices to us. They say a carton of Brahma is 33,000 francs. And when you buy the Brahma, you come and struggle on top of it, and then you arrange it, you dry, you come to the market. When somebody wants to come and buy, you say, this one is 1,500 francs. The person will say, no, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. And then you even manage the other one they call sardine and the other one they call Morocco. You put it there, you want to sell. You put 4 for 500 francs, you want to sell. Somebody who can know they are too small. They are too small, just like that. So the market is difficult, but we are trying. Yes, we are trying. At the end of the day, at least you go back home with something to feed the family.
So we would really beg, say we really need peace for the country. So that means things they come back as the first day. Because the way today, you day for run here, you day for this side, we know they we don't turn tire, we don't just sand dice even at the go and join take we with corona, it take we go. Yes, because me I don't tire. Me president who can sleep, try for work, do things for the way at least the country if come back for the way we be there before.
Though the market is gradually returning, things are very difficult, especially for those buying and selling.
No, market at least we push and small. First time the market be really the worry we, but we don't be more than 1 year, we don't be fine for a corner. You can see our market population day. First time people they don't be there so, but now we encourage people to come market because we see more people. But for now, small shaking don't make some people themselves. They don't even come market today. See how the market dry today, but last week market be there fine. So because of the crisis, we just pray. Tell me all the things just pass, we'll be fine. We'll be back as we be. We say we fine. So the way we say I don't drop now small, but we thank God say now small it will be fine. Compared to first time where people they be fish here, population be big. So now the rate for where people they fish here now it don't drop. Because many people they don't even count down. They're the end of a bush. Then if you they don't want even make up safe, they don't want even plait their hair, fix even their skin because they know say freedom no day. So the rate don't go down small. We never pay ticket for almost a year now. We never pay. So we'll be happy for that one.
The market for Ikona now, name the market. I just say one man they hungry now, you must find way for find something for chop. That's what the market for Ikona did now. The thing I say we don't manage the market. For tell you say you kill one cow now for Ikona, you not fit. You not even fit for saving 100,000. So we don't send on a small, we go buy small meat can. Those only for the make me people they know say Ikona get meat for. Though for compare for the 2 years now, Ikona does the enter now small a bit. At least Ikona does the get a small shape. But I just say the place who can shake these 2 days, say gunshot be there for town. So now I make you see place don't finish again. People don't run go them back.
Ikona Benge, from all the chop so 1 year more than a gunshot. Because now for Ikona, for the pray God say put it for outside me take candle so because we be the other town them. Who overrun oh, you may come. I turn a small chicken with my borrow one for me. I don't even get money to pay because market is enter again. Bad for boy, I don't even come. Because gone for Tuesday. Gone yesterday, Friday. Oh, and done. I love more my boy. Thank you for coming for Ikona. We can't see how Ikona day. No matter they so put it no day. All man the bush. Do you know? Yeah, but the place where boy they ask me to try come back. No, for now you see they say small busy come, small. But for last year, no man if be market because they can't market be market for 9 o'clock morning time. 10 o'clock, market but now if it be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
In some quarters, you will have to see very few persons around with the hope that life will gradually return back to normal. The children in Ikona are no strangers to what is happening within the town. They have turned their sorrow into laughter and have become adapted to the ongoing realities. You could hear and see how the children narrate their ordeal.
They can't give for 1,000 and they'll sleep.
Wait happen with this shushu gone.
And they say they will see another and amber them. They pass, they won't cross road.
What video? Shooting all over the place. Bam, 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 bam. That motor they call and say ammo car. We get some BB mobs. And I'm see them. That way that motor come. They say it's Sila. But we don't run high for some place there. Ah, boom! As na carabot now for line. Woo! For the other side. Now them bottom.
So wait till now do we so they can't see for
What you will do? They say war, English war. How I call them crisis? Now bring them.
So how you don't be
Ah, now God is my shelter, is my strength and my refuge.
If people need to can't help,
Whatever you so you want help we come for this kind of day. We still get some small leaders them where the quarter head, some people notable we head about churches. But now if you use head because plenty quarter head they don't pull. No man no denal effective quarter head. You cannot get some traditional council again. Because if you go to our chief Olimbe, you know give not to this side. So move up churches, see us, give your help. We will know for circulate them. Today Saturday.
How government is the one with you? How will I hear the news?
Who?
Government is the one can
government. Wait till we turn and say na fine news. Anything government bring on a fine thing.
Our next stop was at Buea Central Market. Buea municipality is also a hotspot. Within the municipality, we have Moya and Mile 16. At Buea Central Market, life is as normal as it is in Moya Market. Welcome to the Buea Central Market. We've been to Ekona Market. You saw things there for yourself. You saw how Ekona Market actually closed earlier at around 1:30 as compared to the Buea Central Market. The ongoing coronavirus crisis is not just affecting the businesses in this municipality, but it's affecting everybody. Those who are doing their businesses have difficulties doing their businesses. And of course, those who equally are selling have difficulties selling. You should know that the ongoing Anglophone crisis has greatly affected these people who are selling in this market. Remember that 6 months ago, you come to this market at this particular time, you will not see anybody. But now, in this month of May 2020, you can see people actually buying and selling. That's to tell you that the crisis is gradually fading out and it's gradually fading away. If at this moment you can see how people are buying and selling, it does tell you that things are gradually moving back to normal. You see that the entire population of the Buea Central Market, that they are doing business as though there is no much of a crisis. But in Ekona, there was a tension where people sell and they are kind of living in a mood where when there's a gunshot, they quickly run down. Who will take you again inside the market so that you can find out and see how things are going. The only difference and difficulties the people have is based on the prices of commodities, equally being affected by the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, sandwiched with the crisis. Their cries are heavier than what we can imagine.
I don't enter because at least security don't be in place. People now know about get that fear. But for the coronavirus, at least people they try their own possible means for come. At least we only fear people not come outside. So they don't make activity they move somewhere. But I say things they're strong. We there for the middle of the month. So things the economy things they're strong.
Siam, market bad very badly. Since because of the coronavirus, since money say first time the way nice small people market, and now at least they start put smoke in the market. So you don't better small.
At the start, at least more different people now because people they try to come on now they work on one. People they know they still lock themselves inside house. They come on one. At least things they don't start to change small for some way. You know they again as way before be. As well the corona to start. For the corona way stand so you don't over key economy of the whole world. You don't over make we calm down with the business for them. It make we know they still get the same income then as well the first they get her. Because time we start where they will lock their skin, they will have like the car or the clients so to bring us to market to carry and go back. The most thing will the most say when they stick so we get to dry them or you force customer, you borrow them outside we find out they say we not go even get all your money. So, but for now, so at least the market will go small. Like for today, Saturday, I don't even believe say me I will say so they can't reach for the end. As well me I don't say so. So if you say if it's for what we may have to try to explain and for my media prime and for the Cameroon and them, I say at least seeing the change, I would pray and say me change continue be. At least me the virus is finish. We'll try for preventer. And I wish so for preventer because at least if we did it with work our your hand sanitizer, we wash our hand all the time, you use them, you protect, you have a distance with another people, then you don't go quickly get coronavirus. So for now, so I understand say differently, small. Very good news because if government really think about its own citizens, if government really think about its own people, for if we bring some kind of possibility the inside with them for building of those houses, then it will help with plenty. It will help with plenty for facilitating them for where we feel get a happy go ahead. For the way we feel get progress, for the way the economy feel boom, when no man know the year back.
Les gens viennent au marché, mais ce qui est le véritable problème, les gens viennent beaucoup plus pour la nourriture. Les gens ne paient plus l'habillement comme avant, comme Gidabo dit, comme Gidabo parlait de ça. Bon, beaucoup plus que la nourriture que les gens en payent. Mais le marché n'est pas si mauvais après les 6 mois. Le marché allait toujours, mais un peu doucement, mais quand même, on trouvait quand même au moins un peu vendre. Les gens sont en train de revenir progressivement. Mais toi, tu vois comment le marché est un peu plein aujourd'hui par rapport à avant. Avant, on peut compter le nombre de gens qui sont au marché. Mais de nos jours, tu vois qu'il y a vraiment un monde de marché.
We a lot, plenty, all kinds of stuff. Because normally, you want to do the one, they say coronavirus. Even the one where coronavirus no dey concerned, they just say na coronavirus. They don't make us say, all man they feel confused. You don't even know which one be corona and which one be coronavirus.
Market was some kind. See how we market empty. Except truck pusher, they need come again like how they used to be. You don't see cafe show market anymore. Market over dry. Then things they want to go bring and the new things they want to buy, they go to pick new ways, 9 ways. All that kind of thing. If glass shoes and way don't come on now, say it's there. But again, they don't get the amount for buy again. Money no day. Have you tell you the whole today so not saying a 3-pay shoe? If we dey, may they find another alternative for this thing. Because we don't tire the coronavirus. But now better be past like how we will be in 6 months time. Better don't be now. But now, so if you even enter market, see mommy, then they say water leaf. You see small picking them on market. That time when the corona just start, you know, we see picking like the way they say paper for market. Because we be the try to maintain social distance, on a political distance they talk. Anyone distant they and the only thing they don't understand. You know, say no man will be friend for gun. When they shoot gun, any man will pack at any given time. So you know we compare to when I gun the control until when a sickness. Because some man will take risks for the sickness, but for gun, now other way they give order say all man disappear. If now how will we be for that time for Anglophone crisis? You will even put market, you will put at all because anytime when I be at the run. Because when you hear say they come, you don't need for know who they come, either the military or the Ambazonian boy them. You don't need for run. Because life not get duplicate.
But the life in Central Market is difficult, especially for those not selling but providing services like truck pushers.
Of the pandemic, we they call it coronavirus. It be scare people them plenty, and I think that we see the 10 out of this market. You know, it be that way. People they can't one because of the corona. People they start avoid people them because they to say 1 meter. They make other kinds of things. They make people they now they stay for not for come for market. They can't be now too because prices they will see the two don't go up and money no first day for the country. People they suffer plenty, and I think that way you see all these things they happen. So market not even enter, just have market scatter, and because there is no money, people they suffer. Since they need to go, they try to intervene. Me they even try to have the fee reduce tax for people they sell for market because you can't carry anything. Me I talk the truck union president for the market. We talk say the way the market they, my brother, you know they go. We need intervention from the government at least. For reduce tax for the people that maybe they even try to pay we because we trying to survive for the market, so we try to survive. They turn out the market be very bad. All buyers and the customers they complain.
After the Central Market, our next stop was in Moya, which happened to be chief town of Boya municipality. %80 of the town is back, and you could see how the people are populated in the market.
6 months ago, where I am standing was virtually empty, especially the month of January, February, March, and of course in 2019, December, November. You could not see a single soul on Sunday at this particular point. The market days for this town is Sunday and of course Thursday. This market happens to be a bread breeding basket for Cameroon and of course Central Africa, as many will put it. When you come to this market, you can see varieties of fruits, varieties of groceries, varieties of different kind of items that are at your disposal. But our key focus is to show you that life is gradually returning back to normal. The market is compacted as it used to be in 2015. Within the market, you could hear how women are complaining of the difficulties of the ongoing coronavirus crisis, vis-a-vis how they are recovering from the ongoing Anglophone upheaval.
Going as normal as usual. You know, this time that the school is not really our business now. Because you know when schools are ready, there is our markets are also improving because this virus is slowing our business. So we are just
seen a return on the market. During that period of the intense crisis, the market was very empty. Especially that first October stuff like that was very empty. It was just the street that I didn't find few people there. As time goes on, people are rebuilding their faith. The market is essentially, at least now, there's a beautiful market.
How long has it been that you had gone shopping in the market?
For now, it has been more than 4 months. Yeah, so I for one, I'm living the up there in the town. There are so many people, so many customers that come and get something in Munya. They will tell you that will not pass in Munya. So I'm trying, in my own part, I'm trying to encourage them that everything is calm in Munya. They are still refusing. So it's very few that even to lift up that I'm coming. The few that even trying to come here is those the students around Monaco, and there are so many people are preferring to go there to OIC that is more secure than the rest. Meanwhile, Munya market is a giant in Buda. So we should just try and make sure that the market should get in there.
Yes, people don't come. At least Munya don't flop small.
Okay, then I just see the gunshot they see the ones.
Yes, yes, yes. You know they like before. So since the day at least much better, not small.
6 months ago at this particular spot, you will see nobody at this time. But this time around, people are still there doing their business as usual. We'll find out what's been the secret and what's ongoing as far as the stability of this meat section is concerned.
For the enter market, but the economy is slow.
1 kilometer now.
3,000. Meat 3,000 we bone too.
But now so small better day. At least you say a VC population now. In terms of population, the population don't really increase now so because those here they don't run, they don't come back. So we get population don't increase now so. First time we stand so Munya market look 1 man for that end. But now if you see place be crowded a bit. So at least it be better.
No, normal.
This particular spot was a dead zone when the crisis started, and of course 6 months ago. You could not see people moving in and out of the street, but today you can see how busy the street actually is. You can see that people are moving up and down and are doing their businesses as usual. This particular street, when you call Moya, the word that comes to the mind of many is this particular street. But this time around, you can see that there is relative peace. That's why you can see people moving up and down. And this street equally has street lights at the different compounds and locations where
there have been street lights for people to actually make use of during the evening. And we will take you to the night session to see how this street is during the night, and of course to some porters around Moya in the night. As one of the security measures in order to ensure the safety of those in Moya, the Cameroon government, through the armed forces, have asked the people to put on their security bulbs in front of their doors. At night, the town is different. It is no longer dark. The whole town is full with security bulbs. This is Moya by night, and where we are is Star Street. This particular street has been noted for the ongoing Anglophone crisis as to be the hotspot. And of course, during the early phase of the crisis, and of course 6 months